Welcome back to the Wealth Juice podcast. As always, it's your boys, Ryan and Corey here with another episode for you. Today we have a fun one. Just going to be Corey and I kind of riffing back and forth, but what we are going to talk about, the main topic of today's conversation should be the benefit of buying your first rental property. And really what we want to talk about is what this did for us overall, from changing the way we look at money, the way we look at about our futures, the way we go about building wealth, the psychological benefits. There's just so many different things you don't think about when you get into the next stage of your life. And it really transformed us from consumer to investor. And we have a lot of people that are in our network and community that are looking to buy their first rental. So today we thought we'd break it down, talk about all the benefits it gave to us and really helped us kind of skyrocket into the next stage of our lives.
We're going to talk about not only the financial benefits, but the kind of the mental and psychological, if you will, but specifically about our scenarios too. Like the one right after getting our first, it's like this big springboard. It's kind of like when people say that, oh, I read Rich Dad Poor Dad and it like changed my whole mind, like my whole mindset. For me, I love that book, but that didn't change my whole mindset because I was still just like reading about it and not doing it. Right. So buying our first rental property was like, wow, I can't believe what this can do for us. And although you can, there's not necessarily such a thing as fully passive income, but the amount of work that this took to receive these checks, it changed the way we thought about money completely. So, either we can go into like buying our first, or we can just talk about the financial benefits of it, like straight off the bat,
Well, let me ask you this, because it's interesting. We bought properties at different times, and then we bought them together. I bought my primary residence as my first actual property, and then you bought your place you're living in now, but it was a house hack at first. So that's typically an investment property. I think we might want to talk about the property we bought together as our first rental property, the duplex. Yeah. I think that probably makes the most sense because we went in together. Both of them, everything changed our lives, but this really, I think, set us off to be like, okay, we're doing this. This is a business, and it kind of propelled us to the next level.
And part of this is because we have a lot of new listeners that actually have been tuning into the Instagram at Wealth Juice Official and then the podcast. And I think it's almost like a reset to show everyone the importance of just getting that first one done. And for a recap on Ryan and I, we own 70 plus units together. Now, we do not own all of those units as just him and I, right? We have several ourselves. Some we have separately, and then we have partnerships where we may own anywhere between 5, 20, 30% of these larger projects. But just to give an idea, is like we bought a few turned to us talking on the podcast. The podcast gave us new connections, and before you know it, we have an 18 unit project that we're working on, and we have a ground up development project that we're both general partners on. So, we're set out to make significant incomes from these, not only from the cash flow, but from the sale. And it's like, it all started with the first. So what we can talk about, it's funny that you're going to say this, right? Because the first property that we bought actually burned down. So that's hilarious. But before it did, and that's like an anomaly, right? I mean, you get insurance, you don't need to be scared about that. It was scary, but we ended up making out in the end and making some money off of it. But that first property, what it taught us was, okay, there are assets out there that can produce significantly more income than money that goes out the door. And on that property specifically, we bought it for $175,000, and our mortgage, keep in mind, we did get low rates, but this property would still work in a 7% interest rate environment. Like it would cash flow a little bit less, but it was a duplex, a 2-bed, 1-bath, and a 2-bed, 1-bath. And the rents were $1,500 and $1,500. So we were getting $3,000 a month, and our mortgage was $1,000. So the property was, one tenant was Section 8 and the other one wasn't. So it was in like a C area. So we had to put more away for maintenance than, maybe regularly scheduled programming. But still, if you have $3,000 coming in, $1,000 going out, you can confidently say that you're going to be walking away with at least $1,000 in cash flow each month. And that's kind of what it did for us for a while. So, if we want to talk deeper into that property, or just like the whole, I remember when we got because we were self-managing, and I remember the feeling, we were like, dude, we're getting government checks every month. Like, this is insane. And it sparked us into, boom, we're moving to the next thing.
Yeah. And I want to say, just quick caveat, I know you mentioned the property burned down. That was years into having it. And we had, our portfolio was much bigger at the time. So it wasn't like that our first investment property was an utter failure and it didn't work because, I think a lot of people, when they get into it, it's like, as long as your first investment property doesn't break you, and I say that tongue in cheek, but I mean, if you don't lose it all, you're going to be in a winning spot. And I think a lot of people get scared when they go into starting investing in the beginning, is like, oh, what if I lose it all? What if the worst case happens? What if it burns down? Like ours literally did, and we overcame it. And so I just want to put that out there. It's still, we 10 times out of 10, if you asked us, hey, if your property burned down, would you go invest again? 100%. And you take it on the chin. It's a learning experience. I think let's just go into buying your first rental property and the mindset around it. I think what I mentioned in the beginning of the episode is that you really shift from consumer to investor. And what I mean by that is like the way when money comes in, whether you have a W-2 job or some side hustles, however you get your income, thinking about the way you spend it now will just shift. Like instead of wanting to go buy a new car or going to buy clothes or going to do certain things, you're like, how can I buy more assets that produce income, right? You're almost buying yourself more income. And that's how we looked at it. It was real life monopoly. Once we got through the motions of doing that ourselves and knowing what's possible, that really changed how we looked at the world and then how we kind of took money that was coming in and deployed it, right? So we kind of had to set our financial foundation before we even got investing. And that's a whole other conversation. But I think for us, there's benefits financially, psychologically, or mentally, and then creating that momentum that gets you to the next level. So we can talk about all these things. I think maybe you want to talk about the financial benefits first, right? Because people are like, well, why would I go invest in real estate? Like the number one thing for us, we wanted to reach financial independence sooner than later. So we realized we're like, okay, what are most people in the world? How do they make most of their millions? And most 90% of millionaires become so or make their millions through real estate investing. So we're like, okay, let's get into the majority of the bucket and then find a lane that we can go in and pursue that. And I think there's so many different topics of real estate or strategies of real estate that's hard and overwhelming. Like I feel like on social media, we do a bad job overall. People are just like make you breathe out of a fire hose and drink out of a fire hose with all the information out there. There's Airbnb, there's syndications, there's rentals, there's BRRRRs, there's flips, there's so many things. Like focus on the one thing. So we started at the most basic level. We're like, okay, let's just focus on getting our first rental property, meaning we go buy a property, we put tenants in it, they pay rent, which pays down our mortgage, and we get the benefit of the loan pay down, the tax benefits, the appreciation of the property, and then the monthly cash flow. And there's a lot there, but all of those benefits, if you can do that and repeat that over time, you're going to be a really good spot financially, whether you keep your W-2 job or eventually leave it. The benefit here is starting at the basic level. So that way you're prepared to go to the next level and scale up. You can always, I think people that start, we know a few people that do this, but for us going to a 200 unit apartment complex or a 12 unit was daunting. We're like, dude, we don't even know the basics yet. So that's why we decided to start here. And it was like, become an investor on training wheels. And I think, Corey, you did this a little differently with the house hacking, and we can get into that too. But specifically for the duplex, we decided to partner up together. You mentioned the purchase price that we already bought it for, but can you explain kind of the benefits outside of just receiving the monthly cash flow that the property gave for us?
Well, the cash flow is not even going to be the major benefit. It's probably the least benefit that you get from it, because retiring off of cash flow alone will take years. This is one of the reasons why we're involved in a project called 10Y, where we're building up our equity in multiple projects. And then when the projects leapfrog off of each other and become so big, then you can take the cash flow and actually make a living off of it. So it's going to take a while. The cash flow is basically there so you don't lose the property. That's what it's for. Now, you can make $500, you can make $1,000 a month in cash flow, and that's great. And you can stack that up. If you get into short-term rentals, that can come quicker. You can make larger amounts. But I think the cash flow, there's a kind of a misnomer that that's going to be the biggest benefit. The equity and the principal pay down are things that you're gaining it every single month. So you can look at it like every time the tenant makes a payment, you're getting that gap between what you owe on the property and the equity you have in it, or what it's worth is becoming greater. And I say this we're recording this in early August, and it's kind of ironic because we're watching right now a 8%, 9% stock market correction. And it's pretty crazy to watch it happen. I say that not to shit on stocks or anything like that. We own them. It's an opportunity to buy. But the point that I'm trying to make is there's pretty much one benefit of buying stocks. You keep pumping money in, you buy low, you sell high, and you take your cash or your gains out of it. You pay taxes on it, but you're able to draw off that later in life and live off of. That's essentially like one function of buying a stock, where there's so many different functions of the way to create wealth in real estate. And we actually, we didn't even put that much sweat equity into this property that we bought. That's a whole nother reason. Like, you can buy the property, fix it up, and have it be worth significantly more than the money that you put into it. So just those financial benefits, to list them off, the passive income generation, that's the cash flow, appreciation and equity building, tax advantages. The tax advantages, we're not CPAs, right? So, but there's something called depreciation, which a lot of people know, and you can write off the property over 27 and a half years because the property breaks down. So you get tax benefits. You pay less in taxes, less money out of pocket by owning real estate. Leverage and investment growth, which is what we did. My first property that I bought without you, it grew because it was in an area that had a little bit of growth. I sold it for $100,000 profit, and I took that 100 grand after paying taxes and moved it into an asset that's growing exponentially larger, right? And has higher cash flow and higher appreciation. So that's the leverage. And then the hedge against inflation. I'll say this because I was listening to a podcast the other day. Ryan, Meet Kevin, right? I forget his name. It's Kevin. I don't know his last name. He was kind of
definitely Kevin.
No, his last name. Sorry,
obviously, his
name's definitely Kevin. But so he has, I think, $20 million of real estate, and he was saying the other day, like, the importance of just getting a few, because you'll retire a millionaire based on what inflation is doing. Now, becoming a millionaire may not be worth as much as it used to be, but you will retire a millionaire if you have a few properties. Now, I think for me to still work your job, to create a business, to buy real estate, maybe you make real estate your full-time thing, that's fine too. But to have that and retire a millionaire by buying a few properties, that is extremely, extremely powerful. As long as you're buying in areas that there is a demand for people to live, it's really hard to lose. So those are the financial benefits of it. And, we can go into each of them in further detail, but to break it down of like how this kind of, it can change your entire outlook on your life. A lot of people feel stuck right now. A lot of people do. And it's like, you don't have to feel that way. And we're hoping that this podcast and our platform can bring that to light. It changed our lives, and it can change, a lot of people's, especially if you start in your 20s or 30s, man. It's game changing.
100%. And I think for us, we were craving more, and it was kind of around the time of COVID when the world shut down. So we had a lot of time to really like soul search in a way, right? Like, hey, what do we want to do? You and I had talked about becoming entrepreneurs and, building other streams of income. And we talked about real estate, right? We're like, how do we reach this financial independence? I think we kind of evolved as our age did. And I say that kind of weird, kind of like backwards, because in the beginning we started, we're like, hey, as soon as we make X amount of dollars, we're going to go buy the nice cars. And we did that. And then we regretted it because we realized then other people we saw buying real estate, we're like, wow, they're making more money. We're losing more money. Like, we bought a depreciating asset. They bought an appreciating asset. So just interesting. As you mentioned, Rich Dad Poor Dad really changed the mindset for us. But for me, another benefit outside of just all the benefits of real estate, the financial benefits that you mentioned, there's a lot of mental and psychological benefits that come with it. And I think the number one for me, which was the entrepreneurial mindset, right? Like, to become a business owner overnight, as soon as you buy your first property and you acquire tenants, like, you realize you are in the big leagues at this point. Like, you're responsible for someone's housing. Like, that's a big thing, dude, and like a lot of people, they kind of brush over that when you start talking about real estate and you're running the numbers and things, but it's a big thing. And so for us, we were like, okay, we want to run this. We've seen a lot of bad landlords out there. We've had them, right, in places that we've rented in the past. So how can we not be those guys? How can we be the landlords, if you will, or the property owners that make people feel good about where they live? And you don't want to feel like you're taking advantage of people, right? Like, give them the best possible situation. And it's really cool going through the motions the first time. I remember we went from listening to podcasts, reading the books, to analyzing a bunch of deals, to texting back and forth, to calling each other, talking a million hours a day, and then finally making a bunch of offers and going back and forth with a real estate agent and building out our team members and then finally getting something under contract. And then after the contract, you go to the closing process and you're signing on your first deal. Like, whoa, dude, like this. Oh, and then the lending call was, we had an interesting lender our first time around. And he was spitting out all these like verbiage that we had no idea about and like points and things. I'm like, dude, what are you talking about? And then just send him a million pages of information, basically your whole life in paper format. And it's just so interesting going through the motions. But I'm so thankful that you do that, because there was a sense of pride. And I was like, wow, I'm an entrepreneur now. Like I'm a business owner. Like this property is a business. You know, you and I went in together. So we were 50-50 partners and we created an LLC, and we had to get insurance. And it's just, we put our big boy pants on for the first time, you know, outside of buying our primary residences, but ourselves. And I had a spouse going in with me on the time for my primary. So this one was really like you and I just deciding that we were going to change our lives. And that to me really shifted. We got to test how each other work too, which is really cool, right? As partners. And we're like, okay, where do I fit in? What do I like to do? What does Corey like to do? Where does he fit in? How can we use each other's strengths in respective areas? And I think that helped us evolve the podcast and evolve our social media. And right, like we've learned about each other and the partnership and what works. And that's helped us scale too. And so I think we've become better problem solvers, right? Like we work, whether you know it or not, you're working in customer service too, because you have tenants. And I could go into so many different benefits of this, right? But becoming a business owner and learning how to balance your time while still having a W-2 job and then balancing your social life and your family life, it's a difficult thing to do, but it makes you become the next version or a better version of yourself. And it prepares you to get into the rooms with the millionaires and the business owners and the CEOs and things that you were like, you know, you almost thought maybe you would get there one day, but you weren't really sure how. And like, you thought you were meant for something more. And like, we really knew after buying our first rental and getting in the game that like we were supposed to be here. And I think that was one of the like pivotal moments for me.
Yeah. And it's kind of like, if you ask yourself that question, would 42-year-old Corey or 42-year-old Ryan be proud of the moves that 32 or 33-year-old Ryan or Corey is making? And I say that because the world is so unpredictable. It's, you know, there's a pandemic that happens. There's there's wars, there's things that happen that are not, you know, you can't control any of those things. But I think getting people into the mindset that you really can control your financial future, even by just pressing the go button on making a few good decisions when you're younger, the outlook of your life is so much different. And I sometimes think back to like making those decisions, and I'm not sure exactly what it was that kept us pushing forward and making more and more. And we've made plenty of mistakes. God knows that. I mean, we've made so many mistakes, but to keep going forward and that first property being the springboard. I say this because I spoke with a seller the other day, and Rye, you were on the call, and he's a local guy, and he has like 30 properties, and I think half of them are paid off. And he's not like some mogul, right? I mean, like, you know, you can buy 30 properties in a 15-year time frame. Like, I wouldn't say it's easy, but it's like extremely doable. Like for anybody listening to this podcast, it's doable. He's got a bunch of properties that's paid off, and he sent us an email the other day because he wants us to buy from him, but he's not really motivated. And like, imagine being in your 60s and having this big nest egg of like, I don't really have to make a move here because I have paid off properties. My life is pretty good. I'll sell when I want. And that's it's probably the reason why we may not end up buying from him, because he's not super motivated. But I looked at that. It's just a great conversation of somebody that, oh man, it'd be cool to be in that position. And the first, second, third move that you make can really set you up to be there. I don't know anybody that's in their 60s that said, man, I wish I would have sold more of these properties that I have. You know, it's like, it's all about finding what the temperature is for you and what your comfort zone is. And this wouldn't be the way I go about it, but you may need 4 paid off properties and just, you know, you fix them up, you keep them, and you keep them for 30 years. And like, that's your leverage to live your life. And we would like to probably use leverage in different ways, but ownership, because it's becoming such a renter's nation, it's going to become even more and more difficult for people to do this. So learning now is paramount. And I don't think I'm not saying this because I don't think there's going to be a correction in the real estate market. I think that there is, and there should be. I hope there is. I hope prices come down so there's more affordability. But my point is in 20 years, you're going to be wishing you bought now. Same thing in 10, same thing in 30. So it's just it's kind of like, if you're not an investor, it's hard to survive these days. And I think that's sad, but it's not your parents. It's not growing up when our parents did, dude. You could go get a job, have a 401k, house, kids, car, and you're good. It's really hard to do that now. And I don't think it's going to get easier. I think it's going to get harder.
No. And I think, kind of to this point, I have a couple thoughts here. First one I want to mention is, it's not going to get easier, but things go in cycles, right? So people think they can't get in because rates are so high. It's not true. There's ways to do it. And that's why we actually started our coaching program, to show people how to do that. And quick little plug there, but we can talk about that later. I do want to say, like, things will come down in certain ways, whether it's rates or then, like, typically when rates come down, prices goes up, and it goes the other way around, right? So like you're going to have to find a way to invest both ways, and then just time the market and go in that way. And then maybe you go creative financing. Maybe you don't go with the banks, and you have the ability to not go through the banks when you become a seasoned investor and learn how to buy without having to go to the banks, right? This is the first step in the learning process, is like, hey, put your training wheels on, go through the motions first and buy your property this way. And then, you can evolve to the next. But another thing I wanted to mention is, people think, oh, you have to become a real estate investor and have the vision to go full time with this thing once you start buying properties. That's not the case. Actually, our point here is, just make real estate investing part of your financial picture. If you have the 401k, you have the Roth IRA, you have the brokerage, maybe you have the SHA, all these things, right? Dabble into real estate. Like, you have the foundation set. And if you're making more extra income over that, it's like, rather than trying out new fancy sexy things, what's the tried and true thing that's worked for 90% of millionaires? It's real estate. So that's what works here in the United States, right? Now, that's the market we're speaking about. We're not speaking about outside. I don't know how it works all around the world, but for us and here, that's what we're speaking about. And I want to make a point here, is like, some people love their jobs and they don't think about it as a job. They think about it as a career. Maybe you're a lawyer and you make a shitload of money and you love it. You love going to trial and doing your thing, and you have extra income, and you're like, I need to save for my future, start figuring things out. I have everything set up. It's like, try real estate out, give it a shot, especially when you can come in and pay cash for certain things because you make such a high income. And that's just one example of one person, right? You could be maybe you're a construction worker, right? I have family like this. They are amazing with their hands. They have all the connections, and they don't realize that they have this benefit of, hey, you can buy things cheaper than most. You can get materials cheaper than most. You have connections where you can trade instead of paying. You can trade a job for someone to come build the house, right? You have a skill. You might have a skill set that you want to leverage. And there's many ways to get in. I think a lot of people think it's cookie cutter and I can't do this, but it's like, switch your brain to the creative brain and figure out how you can do this, because there are ways to do it. You just have to put your aspirations out to the universe to let people know that it's something you want to do.
Yeah. And also, bro, I don't want to, like, sometimes I think, I don't know if I want to talk about this on the pod, but like, the victim mentality of like, woe is me, like, I can't do this, like, I have my situations like this way. It's like, I want people to realize that doesn't serve you in any way. And it's almost like buying the real estate and becoming the entrepreneur allows you to become the person that hangs out with the other people who are great people, who are doing big things, who make that their normal everyday life. Like that is, and I think if you get stuck in a rut thinking that's not for you, it's kind of like, let's not complain about the game. Let's figure out how the rules are played and then play it that way. That's how I look at it. Like, the more that you are like, oh, the rich do this, or like the wealthy do that, and like you disassociate yourself from those people and think that there's negative connotations with that, the further you're going to push yourself away from those people and the less doors that are going to open. And when you realize that those doors do open, you realize, oh my God, the people on the other side are amazing, philanthropic people that love helping others. It's like, that was one of the biggest things that changed for us. Is like, once we got a few rentals here and there, we're like, wow, these partnerships that have created because of the I don't know the word, like the virtual resume that we have, that we're able to provide value in different ways, it just changes your life, and it puts you in rooms that you never thought you belonged in. And I say this because, you know, it's not like you and I grew up poor. We didn't. But if you want to dig deep into our backgrounds, we've had some challenges. Like it's not all sunshines and rainbows. And I think by doing something for yourself and setting your future up rather than being the norm and like, I'm just going to go work a job, I'm going to see what happens, I'll let life come to me when it does, you're going to end up being in this mediocrity state for a long time. And the sooner you can get out of that, the sooner the better. Your life is going to change. So
Yeah,
it's powerful stuff.
Yeah, it is. I get what you're saying. And it's interesting. You start as you get older, like we're in our early 30s, soon to be mid 30s. You were very kind to remind me that.
Yeah, man. I mean, dude, 33 is mid, right?
Yeah.
34 is mid.
35 is mid. Once that's mid for me. So we're getting there. But I say that to say, as you get closer to that 40-year-old mark, you start realizing that the gap widens, and the people that didn't spend time thinking about this stuff, it doesn't have to be real estate investing, but just financial future and thinking about the future as opposed to immediately just this moment, you start to see the gap widening, and people are starting to buy nicer homes. They're starting to buy investment properties. Maybe they have a nice car. And then the other people kind of trickle down. They're like, whoa, I can't even afford to go out and do this. Like, what do you know, gas is expensive. Going out to eat's expensive. Like it is, it's expensive for everybody. Right. But like, if you set yourself up early on, you'll then have a bigger runway for yourself to kind of have a nest egg and things to play with. And it becomes less of a burden to do those things. And I'm seeing that more and more now. It's like, oh, well, you guys have all these properties. How'd you do it? I'm like, dude, what do you think I do every week? Like we show up. Oh, you're still doing the podcast, Ryan? I'm like, yeah, we do. It's our job. Like we showed up every week, 4 years. And people are like, oh, how's the podcast thing going? I'm like, it's great. And then like, oh, sounds good, man. Don't talk to them. Then they're like, wait, how do you guys have 70 units? What, how did you do that? I'm like, you know, the thing that you asked me about? Yeah, well, I've been spending friggin' hours on it for the last 4 years. That's how I did it. We spent time on Instagram, building relationships, putting together creative content. And like, there's so much to this that comes with it, but it's interesting. And I just wanted to like put the nail on the head there. Or I don't know if that's a phrase, but basically like make my point that you need to start thinking about this as early as possible, because time is on your side the earlier you start. And people, I'm not saying that you can't get started in your 40s or in your 50s. Like you absolutely can. I'm saying it becomes easier the earlier you start, right? The more you start caring about this, and then you start finding people. Think about before how, I don't know, there's probably people listening here that have kids, that are married, that have, I don't know, multiple houses or what. My point is, life gets busier as you get older. And I'm starting to realize like how little of my own personal time I have left. As you know, I'm married, I have a kid, we have our personal residence, we have investing properties, we have a business, I have a W-2 job. Like that's a lot of stuff going on. And so the goal here, and the reason why I'm stacking all this up right now is like, cause I want to be able to shorten my horizon of retirement, right? I don't want to be the guy that's 65 still having to go to clock in every day and like in having to answer to someone else. So I'm just trying to skip steps here now, and not really skip steps, but like I said, cut that time horizon down. So I'm willing to put in the extra work while I have the energy, because I know for a fact, if I have a 5-year-old and a 13-year-old or whatever the age is, there's no way I'm going to have the energy and the time to want to do what I've done in the last couple of years. We've been able to stack this up because we're young. We got the energy. And so it is possible. It's just much harder. That's what I'm saying.
And I think this isn't really, the intention isn't to toot our own horn here. I think it's to expand the horizons of the people that are listening. And I say this because we are friends with people who don't think about money. Like they don't, like, it's not that, it's like going out to dinner is not, they don't care what it costs. They don't, it's like, it doesn't bother them. Like in the inflation aspect of it, they're like, whatever, like I already have built this life. So we're still on our way to that. But my point is that when you're just getting started, you don't even think you can associate with those people. And the thing is that you can. I'm sure those people, not everyone lives a perfect life. There are problems in any scenario. But my point is if you can kind of get money out of the way when you're 40, 50 and be like, all this is growing for me. the guy who walks around the street, I think it's School of Hard Knocks, and he interviews all these like high level successful people, and they have advice, and it's amazing stuff. But it's like, if you listen to that and you don't take it and put it into action, you're just going to be listening to it over and over and over again. And you and I have a long way to go. We're just getting started. I think the difference between the journey when we just started and the difference now is that we have tangible advice and information to give, and we really can help people do the same thing. When we were just starting this thing, man, we thought we could help people. People are listening to us. They're building along in our journey. And now we've reached this point where we're not going to teach somebody how to buy a 50-unit apartment complex. You know what I mean? Like, that's not our thing. But we can, and we're going to teach a lot of people to buy their first rental property, because a few years behind that is growth. And it's a life that you never really thought that you could live. And I can't wait for, the next 5 years to see where we are there. But that's why we're having this conversation.
Yeah. And I think as we kind of mentioned, it's a building block, right? And so the last point here that I want to go to is, we kind of talked about the financial benefits, and then we kind of talked about the mental and psychological benefits that it does for you, right? But the momentum of your investing career changes completely after you get your first deal. And I mean that by you've gone through the motions, you've put yourself out there, right? You've said, hey, this is what I want to do. And then you backed it up. You went and did it. You went and built the team. You, instead of analyzing all these deals, you went and put it into action, into your real life. There's something about that that's transformative when you go through that. And I just remember like having analysis paralysis, and that is basically the act of analyzing a ton of deals. And that can be in just researching a ton of deals, practicing over and over. That could be listening to a million podcasts. That could be reading a ton of books and taking a bunch of notes. And then you do nothing about it, right? And then it's like, oh, something else popped up. That's cool. Let me go learn that. And you wasted all that time studying and putting, kind of putting your aspirations on paper, and then just never did anything about it. It's like, just pick up the phone, call a realtor and interview them. See if they've had any, if they have sold, if they own any investment properties themselves. How many properties have they sold? Like, do they work with investors? And those are just three of the most basic questions you could ask them. But then it goes down to finding a lender. Like, can you help me out? I'm a first-time investor. Here's what I'm looking for. Here's my buy box. It's you put it together. And once you meet the right people, they help pass the baton along further to the next person. And so we found that it's not all about the processes, but it's kind of the people you meet and your who, not how, right? Like, who can get you to the next level. And for us in the beginning, I think, we would have been exponentially further along than we were if we had a mentor or a coach early on, but one that was accessible and not crazy priced, right? Like one that was like, okay, this fits my needs for now. And I think a lot of times we've tried, last year and in a little bit of this year, we've gone into other rooms where like we started paying for coaching and mentoring. We found out what we don't like, found out what we do like. And by finding out what we do like and what actually moves the needle, that's what we're implementing into the coaching program. We're saying, okay, Corey and Ryan 5 years ago, who's that person? Let's go find that person and help them buy their first rental property, because we are 100% confident that we can get them their rental property. We can help them scale their portfolio, and we can help them get in the right rooms with the right people. And that's who we're after. And we're it's almost giving back. We're still young on this, but like prime example, your younger brother. And we don't have to go into all that, but like he's the prime example to just get him to the next level. My brother. And like it's just interesting. We have people in our immediate sphere that we're like, dude, these guys are perfect for this. We also have a ton of people that listen to the podcast and on social that are they're the silent lurkers, right? That they're studying, they're researching, but they're like, I'll do that one day. We actually talked to a gentleman today. I'm not going to spoil his name, but he's the exact right person for us to work with. 25-year-old guy. Has a great W-2 job. He has a side hustle, and when I say that, it's like it's in the construction side of things. And he's been watching the podcast, listening to the podcast, watching all the social posts, and he ended up booking a call with us. And I knew right away when we talked to this kid, I'm like, dude, you're the perfect fit. 100%. He has the money to invest in a property. He has the money to invest in coaching. Not blowing the bank out, right? But just like enough to get him to the next stage. And I'm like, dude, I wish I was in your seat 5 years ago, 100%. Cause I knew I could get to the next level. And all of like our immediate network is in the market that he's in. I'm like, dude, this is a perfect fit. So it's really cool. And it's exciting to be on the next stage, because just a short while back, we were the guys on the podcast for the first time bright eyes and bushy tails were like, hey, how'd you do it? What do you do? And if we had someone on the show that had 70 units, be like, you're like, whoa, how the hell did you do that? And now we're those guys and we're like, whoa, this is kind of weird. It's cool, but we made it a point for ourselves is like, hey, we're trying to give back now. And this is a way to bolster our network too, right? Like think of all these people that we are now going to be able to get into deals with. We have people going out and searching for deals. And like the goal is to build this big community instead of like just having fun social posts talking about real estate. It's like, let's get in the nitty gritty and start kind of like taking things down together. Let's share all the knowledge we have. And no, things aren't going to be perfect every time, but if we can house everything in one, kind of bracket and have everybody in this community that's actually taking action instead of just looking, that's really what's going to be powerful. And it's going to be so exciting to see in the next couple of years, people will change their lives.
I recommend somebody that you go find your thing. I truly feel like this is our thing. Like this is what we were like, not to get too philosophical, but like kind of meant to do, because we've had so many people that have been older than us and ahead of us. And like, we see the excitement in them helping us. And now we're not at the stage where we're like, we have it all figured out, but we really can help people. And I was saying this, I don't know if I was talking to you or somebody else the other day, but I'm like, dude, like, what's the point of making all the money? Is it just to buy more shit? Like, you just want more stuff? Like, that's cool. And then it becomes empty, and it's security for your family, and then pumping it back into having a purpose. And to watch somebody's life be transformed by making a decision, a smart, informed decision, to watch that happen, that is going to give you and I so much more juice, if you will, to keep moving forward and to keep doing it every day than to just work a random job and make money and then say, what am I going to do with it on the weekends? Like, that's not life. You know what I mean? Life is meant to, it's either, there's a number of things that life is, but like finding that thing, that purpose that you feel that you can really provide. I recommend it outside of the whole real estate thing. Maybe real estate isn't your purpose. I would say real estate isn't our purpose. You know what I mean? Like, I love real estate. I love what it can do for us, but the teaching aspect and the growth and the person you become because of the business that you build is kind of what gets me excited. So you and I can talk for hours on all this stuff, but I think the moral of the story is that there's not only financial benefits, there's not only philosophical and mental and the momentum that it builds, but it's like, watch the rooms and watch the rooms you get into and watch the people you become by taking that first step. And I hope to be those guys that you can say, I leaned on these guys and they really helped me. And that's what I think we're here to do. So
yeah. I think we covered everything. And as you mentioned, the main focal point of this conversation was to dial it back and go to, us 4 or 5 years ago when we were just getting started and remembering where we came from and how hard it was in the beginning to take that first step. And, I always kind of wish I had that accountability partner outside of you, right? Like, as before we even partnered together, that was just like the person, like the devil on my shoulder, or the angel on my shoulder, like just whispering in my ear, kind of saying, yo, dude, did you analyze more deals today? Did you make the offer? Did you take, you know what I mean? And so that's what we want to provide to people, is like not only proximity to the network, but the accountability to remind people, hey, like, you need to take the action and try this and go interview and have conversations with people to take to the next level, to take things to the next level. And so it's that mentorship that we never had. And we kind of covered everything, but
yeah. I have a message though to the people that are listening. If you are listening and let's say you're at a point where you got a bunch of units and you like listening to us, I would say think about people that that also, either you could help them get into real estate investing, you can help change their lives, or send them our way and maybe we can help them. And I only ask that, Ryan and I don't ask for anything from the audience except maybe asking for reviews, right? But if maybe you're thinking of somebody that this could help change, either go help them yourself, which I think is awesome. That's what we've been doing for 4 years. People that have reached out to us, we've been helping them either by messaging them, getting on calls. We've done a lot of work to help bolster the lives of the people around us. But if you're listening and maybe you don't have any units, you want to have a conversation with us, we would love to. Or, if you're thinking of somebody else that could benefit, send them our way. The best way to get in touch with is on Instagram @WealthJuiceOfficial. Send us a DM, man. We we feel like we found our thing, and we're excited, really excited. Like hopefully you can hear it in our voice. It's not just like, it is a business, but it's like a real passion.
Yeah, I think this thing's going to evolve over time, and right now it's just a one-on-one coaching platform and group coaching, and bringing in some guest speakers, and from there I think it can evolve to sort of like a mastermind. It just depends on kind of how it's structured, and the goal is to be having deals flowing left and right, and having people close and change their lives and for the better, right? And bringing everything into one centralized location, so that way there's no confusion, right? Like confused mind never takes action, and so how can we streamline things to make it as easy and tangible as possible for people to change their lives? And that's not easy. Don't get us wrong. That's going to take some time to build out. But that's the goal. And so we have a couple of people signed up already, but we are going to be opening the coaching program to 10 people. And that could be 10 people, 10 couples, but like 10 slots, right? And so
I think I
we're
wrote
going
15, just so you know. I think
ooh,
it's gonna be 15. So yeah, go a
ooh, you signed us up for more. Okay, buddy.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
That's cool. All right, so 15. That's
Yeah.
cool. So 15 people, and with that, the first 15 people that we do this for will get a heavy discount on the offer. So if you are interested, please drop us a DM, and you could just say I heard the episode, or you could DM us the word ready. That's fine. And if you're more than ready to, if you don't want to have go back and forth via DM and ask questions, you're more than welcome to. We'll also have a link in our bio where you can sign up for a 30-minute call with Corey and Ryan. And so then that'll be like the real, hey, like I'm ready to move to the next step. How's everything work? We'll talk pricing, we'll talk structure, we'll talk deliverables, and really go from there. So if you're ready to kind of take the next step, click the link in our bio and actually book the call. We'll leave the link in there, no problem, 30-minute. If you'd like to chat a little bit before, drop us a DM. Just mention that you listened to the podcast, or drop us the word ready, and that'll be our trigger word to know that, hey, you want to talk about the coaching program. And overall, I think we're thrilled. I mean, like I said, we had a couple calls today on this, and I was just so juiced and excited to have a conversation with the gentleman we did, because I just knew we'd be able to change his life and give him all the connections that he needs, because he was already motivated enough. Some people just need that little edge to get him to the next level. And yeah, man, with that, I think we're pretty much wrapped up here for today.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys joining in as always. This is it's so fun to chat with you, not with you, but to speak and have people listen in every Wednesday. Again, this week we didn't have a guest, but we'll continue to bring new guests that we feel like are relevant for today's market, that are relevant for who you can get inspired by. So that's what you're going to see from us as always, and we're going to keep bringing it to the forefront. But we appreciate you tuning in, and thanks again, and we'll see you next week.
Yeah. Once again, before we go, I do want to say, if there's anyone that you'd like to see us interview, specific names, we've gotten this in the past, really good recommendations, and we have a vetting process. It's not like, hey, interview this person, we just have them on the show. It doesn't work like that. But if there's some people you've heard on another podcast, and you want the Ryan and Corey take, like the questions we ask on our podcast for this person, let us know. As we mentioned, we've had some pretty big names on the show. We've had some mom and pop investors. It kind of ranges on the spectrum. It's just, we want the right people with the right values on the show that are going to provide value, right? Like if they're coming on and just spitballing and trying to pitch something, we're not going to have them on the show. But if they're going to provide true value and they're a giver, we want them. And we already have our eyes on some pretty big names here before the end of the year. So if we are willing to take a shot, to say the least, at getting them on the show. So if you have someone, drop us a DM. That's the best way to communicate with us. I think a lot of people want to know how we can chat back and forth. We're starting to put a lot of content on YouTube. You can drop us comments on YouTube, but it's really DM on Instagram. We're there every day. So if you want to chat with two of your favorite podcasters, that's how you can get in touch with us. So I guess that is another wrap for the Wealth Juice podcast. Thanks again for tuning in this week.